This is Levi's lapbook on plants and seeds and trees. And in the pocket we have some little things that didn't really fit. There's some books that we printed out. This is the lapbook stuff. Parts of an apple and some copy work. You can see in there. This is about trees and some more stuff about apples. This is a seed that we cut apart to look at the inside. I think it's a bean. Parts of a seed, roots. There's a joke here. Next is some things about gardening. We looked at different tools, why people sneeze, and what a green thumb is, some other words for scent and small. This is some stuff on flowers. There's a little story that he read, and a life cycle. Let's see all that thing. And these are some jokes which he thought were really funny. This is more stuff about trees, parts of a flower, vocabulary words which I glued on sideways because that's how it fit. The next section is experiments and work packets. There were all kinds of experiments that we did. This one we used plants and we took away one thing from each plant. This one has no water, no sun. This one had everything. This one had no soil. And we compared how the plants grew. This one we put vinegar water for acid rain to see what would happen. And these are the results. I made these little charts for him to fill in, to put his results and observations. This one is the celery experiment. We put celery in food coloring water and see what happens. And that's the drawing of the inside, and this is his sloppy drawing of the celery. I had these little work packets that had cards that you could put in order to do the life cycle of a plant. So these were after he put them in order, he wrote down what each one was. And this one was parts of the plant. This one came with a puzzle of a plant, and then you put it together and labeled everything. This is another parts of the plant, what each part of the plant does. And this one had a bunch of different veggies, and you had to, on fruits, and you had to put what category they were in: leaf, root, stem, flower, fruit, and seed. And we talked about how we eat different parts of plants. And he drew his favorite ones. This one was, he had to put some plant words in alphabetical order, and I know that's sideways, sorry. Here's some math things we did with plants. This one was one where he had to color in according to the chart, so he had to find each box and draw the right thing to make a mystery picture, which was a flower. This one was types of apple, and we graphed them, whether they were good for eating, cooking, baking, sweet, tart, soft, crisp. We ate some apples. We didn't get all of these kinds. We found some of that information in the book. There were some worksheets I found that had a flower on it, so we called it a plant activity. Function tables. This one, we took different leaves and printed them with paint on graph paper, and then counted the little boxes to find the area and the length of each of these, which he wrote down here. And this one had Earths on it. That was for Earth Day. And this one, you had to count and then graph. Subtraction, but it had some leaves on there, so it counts for plants, I guess. These were Jack and the Beanstalk sort of word problems that he had to figure out. And another counting activity. This is the copy work. A lot of these are from the Draw Right Now books. This one's on apples. And I can't turn the page. Here's one about how trees lose their leaves. This one here is about leaves changing colors in the autumn. This one's about grapes. I just tried to find anything that was remotely plant related for him to do. This one's evergreens. This one I printed out, that was the Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary poem that he had to copy. The next section is artwork. This is a watercolor painting he did, which I think came out really nicely. The plants underground, the roots. This one, it was again Earth Day. He designed a earth-friendly shirt. That's Florida, I think, and England, but spelled interesting. Not too accurate, but oh well. This one was an activity we did, and actually I had originally thought that the fingers would be the branches on the tree, but he chose to do it this way, which was fine. And he wrote about it. He wrote, "Roots are like fingers that reach into the earth and pull out nutrients and water for the tree." And I asked him to write any caption he wanted, and that's what he came up with, which I thought was pretty good. This is a painting thing that we did, and there's some real apple seeds, and we labeled the parts of the apple. And this one was, I photocopied this from some book, and you'd use your thumbprints. I had the 2-year-old do this one as well, so just kind of for fun. And this one I printed out offline, online someplace, and it's, you use Q-tips to paint it. So he likes that. And this is the cutting the apple and printing the stars. We ate most of the apple, that's why it was squares instead of whole apple bits. And this one was just using the eyedropper, which was kind of hard with the eyedropper we had and some color mixing. Next is journals. I found this journal at a homeschool book sale, and I'm not really sure where it came from, but it's kind of a neat one. It had parts of the plant that you draw in. This one, he went outside and did this one on his own, finding some observations about a plant, and what plants need to grow, and how plants grow, and where plants grow, and parts of the flower. How plants can help people, what they're used for. These are some plants that can hurt people. We talked about poison ivy, poison oak. Strawberries he wanted to color in as something that can hurt him because he's allergic to strawberries, but we talked about why that's not generally the case. For this one, he glued on some seeds and compared sizes and which one was softer or harder. A little graphing thing with the number of seeds. And this is different seasons, different shapes of leaves. This was some fruit punch. We didn't actually make this because it's hard to find cherry juice and whatnot, but talked about what fruits you can drink. And this is something made from plants. He drew about paper, and that's they have other ones in the series, so I might look for those. This one was a leaf experiment. He did this one with his friend. They went through and described their leaf. They did some experiments, how many pennies they could fit on a leaf. They actually stacked the pennies up in a big pile, so they got a huge number, but they counted 201 pennies, and they tried to sink the leaf with pennies, and they measured it with cubes, and they counted when they dropped the leaf to the floor to see which one would drift the longest. The last part is worksheets. I got these from some sort of workbook and tore out all the ones that were plant related. So a lot of these are similar, but you had to fill in the blank and true and not true things. Not really sure where this came from, but there's a whole bunch of these. He just kind of did because he wanted to do them all. And lastly, he wanted to do a test. So I found this one on plant life, and it just had some multiple choice questions. There's a couple pages of that. And then the last thing is a worksheet I found on photosynthesis that explained it, and we talked about how that works. We didn't get too in-depth with it, but he got the basic idea there. And that's it. That was our unit study on plants and trees and leaves and seeds and all kinds of things like that. That's it. Bye.